So in the band, we've got 5 people at the moment, and there are 2 of us in this interview this evening. So it's myself, Ian. I am the accordionist and growler. And then we've also got Isabella here.
Hi.
And then we've also got Christo, who plays guitar, Simon, who plays drums, and Nick, who also plays guitar.
Hey, that is super. I'd like to just thank you guys for joining me on the show. Super stoked that we have, a band from the UK, and you guys are basically doing really well, especially with your latest single that you just dropped, which you're going to be touching more on a bit later. But to sort of just, start off as an introduction, let us in on your guys' name. Where does it sort of originate from? And yeah, just expand a bit more on that.
The name Bring to Bear is actually derived from a common English phrase, to bring something to bear. And it's really aimed at what the phrase actually means, to enact upon something with force or to make something happen. So the idea behind the name is that it's about bringing something into being or bringing it to bear to make something happen that you really want to have happen.
Hey, that is really good, guys. I mean, just looking at the genre that you guys actually do, being symphonic folk metal, it seems to be a genre that isn't really, in the mainstream picture. So I just want to get, from you guys in terms of why you guys decided to sort of do this genre, and maybe for anyone who may not be familiar to this genre, how would you guys best describe it, and perhaps, who are some of the bands that sort of influence that kind of sound when it comes to you guys, being Bring to Bear?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you break it down, it's really symphonic metal and folk metal, which are 2 other genres that are probably more well known. And within symphonic metal, people are probably most familiar with Nightwish, and they are actually a big influence on us.
Yeah, definitely.
And then within folk metal, if you break that down, you get bands like Corpiclani or Ensiferum. Those kinds of bands are well known in folk metal. We just decided to combine elements of both of that.
Yeah, I believe we're getting that a little bit of unique sound because of Ian, actually, because he's bringing in the accordion and it sounds amazing.
That is very special, and we're obviously going to be, listening to your guys' latest single a little later on, and we're obviously going to be expanding a bit more on that a bit later on as well. But I'm hearing, and picking up different accents and stuff, so I'm wanting to find out how you guys actually got together as a band, where the band actually originates, because it does sound, as I said, the different accents and whatnot. Just looking at focusing on Isabella at the moment, how did it come about that Isabella ended up being in the band? You also mentioned Christo, so just tell me a bit more about the band's origins.
Okay, so I'll go from the beginning then. Christo and myself play in another band together, which is more of a gypsy punk kind of band, quite similar to Gogol Bordello, if you're aware of that band. We both realized that we actually love heavy metal so much that we wanted to try our hand at making some heavier music with accordion. So then we just decided during first lockdown here in the UK to just write a few songs and see where it goes. And once we'd written about 3 short demos that were to suggest the style that we were looking for, we posted some ads on Facebook and another site called Bandmix, which is a bit like a catalog of musicians and bands looking to join other musicians or bands. So yeah, Isabella actually found one of our Facebook ads.
Yeah, this is actually really funny because I was always thinking to start singing because I'm originally from Poland, and when I moved to London, I kind of stopped doing anything creative, and it was that point of my life that I really wanted to. And I was scrolling down the advertisement and I was like, damn it, why there is nothing for a symphonic metal singer? And I scrolled it a little bit more down and here it was, and I was like, what is going on? And I've actually sent my application thinking that they are living far away from me and there is going to be nothing out of it. And then I was a bit surprised. I'm really happy.
Yeah, and like she said, we're in London, and you mentioned the different accents that you can hear from us, but pretty much everyone in the band is from a different country because London is really international like that.
Isabella, you mentioned that you're from Poland. I just want to say the only thing that I know about Poland at this point is Robert Lewandowski, who plays for Bayern Munich as a striker. But I really wanted to find out about the music scene out in Poland, because you don't really get to hear much about the country, as a whole. So is there like a thriving music scene out in Poland?
It's really funny because we've got a lot of like pop music and etc. And there is many people that they are not actually aware that our metal scene is going out to the world. But we've got like many proper metal fans in Poland as well, and people with the really nice energy. So yeah.
Hey, that's impressive. And Ian, you also mentioned, being in London. How is the music scene out in London right now?
In general, in London, the scene with the indie type genres is quite strong. There's a lot of activity. Metal is a slightly smaller genre within London, but there is still quite a lot of activity on the north side in a part called Camden Town. That's actually a fantastic part of London. You can go there almost any night of the week and find a live band in one of the pubs. And there's something like 30 to 50 pubs just in that neighborhood of London. So yeah, I mean, the scene is quite strong in terms of active bands at a local level. It's also really good for the bigger touring bands and international bands because London is so well connected to other parts of the country as well.
Yeah, so basically having started the band, together with Christo in May 2020, that basically means that you guys started up, right during the pandemic, basically. So I think you guys are basically the first band that we've had, that has started, during this era or this time period. So I'm just wanting to find out, from you guys in terms of, are there any advantages or any disadvantages, or rather both, that you can sort of let us in on as a band that basically started, in the thick of it, basically?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a mixture of both. In terms of disadvantages, it's obviously much trickier to communicate. So everything is done remotely, which does take a lot longer to get things moving. So we actually made the decision to start the band and start working on music in May last year. And it took about a year for us to get together some music and some people to join us on this adventure and record it. So that's the disadvantage that we've mostly faced, is it taking a while and communication being a little bit harder to achieve in a clear way, I suppose. But in terms of advantages, I personally found that it was quite a good opportunity to be able to write new music and to sit down and really think about what you want for the music, because there's not much else going on in terms of a social life or other gigs or things like that. So there are a few less distractions around, or less things that take up your time, and you can just focus a bit more on what you really love doing.
I actually really enjoyed that time, to be honest, because I haven't been singing for such a long time, and I wasn't like dropped into such a deep water, because we were literally doing stuff at home and sending it to each other. So I could kind of meet the guys, get used to it all. We had like plenty of meetings through Zoom or from Google Meet. And yeah.
So we made it work with the communication, just being able to throw around ideas quickly and come to a solution quickly.
And just looking at, the band as a whole in terms of the instruments that you guys play in, you did mention there that you play the accordion, and obviously Isabella being the vocalist. I really just want to find out where the roots of all this is, where you guys started with your respective instruments, or rather with Isabella, when exactly you started singing, and basically when you decided, that, listen, I want to be a vocalist for a band.
Oh, I started singing as soon as I start to speak. So yeah, I was always thinking like, when you have like a childhood things like, oh, I'm going to be a singer. Yeah, one day you're going to see me on TV. And then kind of life happened to me, because I used to sing like a little bit back in Poland in the band, in choirs, and I even done the weddings. And then I came here and everything got like a little bit more quiet, because I started to work like, it's not like you're not the dreamer anymore, but it's just you're doing what you need to earn the money. And I think it was a little bit of a language barrier as well at the beginning. But yeah, I felt the calling It's just made me so happy to sing. Not so happy for my neighbors and flatmates, but
At least you sing well.
I hope so.
I mean, if I was the one singing, the neighbors would be running away as far as they could.
I think the band, it was like a little bit of my birthday gift because it happened like literally a few days before my 30th birthday. And I was like, with the pandemic and everything, I was like, no, I need to turn my life around. I love to sing and I want to try. So yeah, that's about it.
Beautiful how that actually came together. On your side, Ian, how did you sort of get into playing the accordion? Because that's another instrument that you rarely or don't often hear about.
It's a quite unusual instrument, but to be honest, it's such an incredibly fun instrument, and there's so many different feelings you can generate through it. I actually used to play electric guitar for quite a while before swapping to accordion. And during that time that I was playing electric guitar and becoming more musical, learning a lot more about music, etc., that was when I started listening to bands like Nightwish and Korpiklani. And I just found that the more I listened to Korpiklani, the more I enjoyed the accordion parts of their music. And I said to myself one day, I want to learn that instrument. So I just went on Google, found the nearest accordion teacher that I could, and called him up, said, I want some lessons. And he said, okay, do you have an instrument? I said, no. So he arranged a secondhand one for me. And then I started going for lessons. And I've never looked back. I mean, I love it so much that I played guitar about 4 times for up to an hour each after starting accordion. So one day I just had an honest conversation with myself and I said, well, truth is, I'm no longer that interested in playing guitar. I am an accordionist.
And you know what? It actually worked out, for the best, considering that, when you do listen to, your latest single, you're able to hear it's got a very distinctive sound. It really just stands out. So we're obviously going to be touching a lot more about that as well when we get to that segment. So I just want to find out from you guys, in terms of the situation out, in the UK. Obviously we're going through a pandemic, as you've been sort of mentioning, throughout the episode. So what is the situation like, out in the UK? Are you guys, are there any gigs that are going on? Are you guys on lockdown? Give us a little more intel on that.
Things are opening up a lot more at the moment. The government announced their plan to move out of a lockdown some time ago, and they've been progressing through that. And they're due to announce this coming Monday that within a week or so, we're expected to have no more restrictions or legal requirements on handling the pandemic. But there were times where things were very locked up for a while. At the moment, bars and restaurants are open, but I think you have to be seated. You can't just pitch up and order a drink or anything at the bar. You need to book a table. Businesses are all operating as much as they can. The main thing that's not operating at the moment is actually the arts and live events. So there are no gigs happening at the moment. I mean, some are happening, but there's a limit of about 30 people allowed at an event. And for most gigs, 30 people barely covers the basic fee. So it's not really worth anyone putting on a show at the moment. Theatres are operating at half the capacity and things like that. But yeah, we're expecting in about 9 days' time, everything will be open.
Just looking at the gigs that you were mentioning there, you guys have been together for a little over a year now, and I'm just wanting to know from you guys, if you've played any gigs at all, and if you have, how that experience has sort of been for you guys, or have you guys sort of just been restricted to, studio time and recording at this point?
Within that year that we've been together, we met each other in person for the first time in...
April?
No, it was February, wasn't it?
But do you mean like in person?
Yeah. So we met up in person for the first time, I think it was in April. That's right, yeah, April. Yeah. And then we actually ended up recording the songs in the studio before we'd even had a rehearsal together. And we've rehearsed a few times, but it's mostly been a case of writing our separate instrument parts remotely and then getting feedback from the rest of the band on those parts to see how we can tweak it to suit the music and the vision. That's been the challenge of working remotely.
Isabella, you mentioned turning, 30 and, I'm just wanting to find out, from both of you guys in terms of how your families sort of, feel about what you guys are doing and the fact that this is a passion of yours, playing in a band like this. Isabella, you mentioned that, this joining the band was like a birthday gift to you. So at the age that you're at right now, how does your family sort of feel about you being part of Bring to Bear?
Everybody are so supportive. I was even very surprised as when we started with the Facebook page, like a lot of friends and family, they actually reached out to me. They said they are really happy I am doing something that I used to love to do since childhood. I don't know about you, Ian. Full support.
Yeah, I've found that generally family is very happy for me. I think they've come to realize that music is actually something I take very seriously, and I'm not just doing it as a little pastime type thing. So they've accepted that. They've seen how much effort we're putting into this band, and I think they've been encouraged by the amount of effort we're putting into it, I would say.
To be honest, I wasn't that encouraged when I was younger. I mean, they love the fact that I'm singing, but the thinking is like, oh, you should go have a proper education, have a good stable job and everything. And I was always like kind of on this artsy side. And I was like, I want to do what I love, but I need to eat as well. So if you really want something, I think you can do it. You need to put the work in it. But I believe we can do it without any problem. Just focus, have a purpose, and it's going to be okay.
A purpose and a plan, and that's the important thing, is the plan.
Yeah, and a plan.
You have a step-by-step plan, not just a big plan of where to go in the end, but also the steps along the way.
I'm always getting excited. I know what I want, but then I need someone to put me more down to earth and tell me, okay, how we're gonna actually do it.
Yo, guys, that's some really solid advice. I really just want to know, in terms of how Devo is involved in the band, because he's all the way down here and you guys are all the way up there.
Well, that's actually through a mutual connection. So I grew up in South Africa, and I've got some friends who are there at the moment, one of whom is Reno Turon from the band Truth Decay. And really great guy, really great band. They're also a band that started during lockdown in South Africa. I saw that Reno was using Devo for his solo work and for Truth Decay. And it was really helping the band to develop themselves and also to get great opportunities. So I messaged Reno one day and said, I want to work with the same guy. Can you give me his contact details? And yeah, since then, that's been it. It's been great.
Yeah, that is super. I mean, we've had many of Devo's bands, come through to the show. So we're super stoked that, we just keep adding to the list. And, we're super appreciative of the fact that, we still get to work with amazing artists, through him, and very hardworking man. So shout out to you guys and shout out to Devo. We do know that you guys are working on an EP. Well, basically, you started recording the EP in May this year, actually. So tell us a bit more about that.
I don't know how to word it, but it's almost like just bringing different elements together at one place. But we had all been working on them at home. So, for example, I would write the accordion parts for a song, record it through my home system and send it to the band for comments. And then they would comment and say, I don't think it works with the guitars so well, or I think it's really nice, whatever their feedback was. And then I'd adjust it as necessary. So what was good is we got to the studio knowing exactly what we were going to be playing, or singing in that case. It was more just a case that we hadn't really had that time to play together as a band and get to feel each other out.
If I could go back a little bit, what is very interesting, we have all people in the band, they have a little bit of different taste and different background. So we had Ian and Christo writing the songs at the beginning. And when they actually put it on the drive, we had all those people having their point of view, their taste, and they were actually, all of this came together very nicely because everyone was able to give something else from themselves. And in terms of the songs and the lyrics, guys as well, they had like some of the ideas for the vocals, so we could kind of experiment with all of these things, and we were just sending it back and forward. And when we found that sweet spot everybody loved, we were like, okay, the song is ready. But of course, with all those stuff, sometimes when you want to make like a thing perfect, you're constantly like trying to nitpick, yeah, and change a little bit. But then we were like, okay, stop it now, this is ready, it's going to be great, and let's record that.
We actually had each musician record their instrument in the same order it was going to be done in the studio as part of the home demos. So we started with Simon recording the drums at home and then sending us his drum recording. Then Christo did bass and rhythm guitars, and then Nick came and did the other rhythm guitars, and then lead guitar was added, and then accordion was added, then vocals. So we went through that step-by-step process at home before we actually got to the studio. So it was almost like a dress rehearsal for a performance.
Isabella, was this your first time, recording in an actual studio? I know with Ian, he did mention that he and Christo have been part of, a band previously. So, I'd assume that he has this kind of experience when it comes to recording, in an actual studio. So when it comes to you, Isabella, was this sort of like a first time thing, or, have you had an experience previously where you were sort of recording in an actual studio?
No, I definitely have more of a life experiences. I always wanted to have like a YouTube channel and record things, but I am so terrible at recording at home and like putting like those how is it called, like when you're putting echo.
Oh, the effects.
Yeah, the effects and all of this. I was like, So actually, when I heard myself after recording for the first time in the studio, I was like, oh, okay, I sound like this. Yeah, it was definitely fun. I was trying to learn all the lyrics, and we were trying to have everything prepared as much as we can. So we only like went into the studio, done it, and then if something was not right, we could just say like, could we like change it a little bit or whatever. But it was stressful, definitely, for the first time, because I was standing in the middle of the room, everybody was watching me. I was like, oh, okay, that's gonna be fun.
I mean, for all we knew, you couldn't actually sing, and you were sending us someone else's recordings at home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it really came together really nicely, though, with the way you guys are explaining it. How did you guys actually end up picking the Shadow Ruse as the lead single, considering that you guys had been recording a whole EP? You had quite a few tracks to pick from, so why this track in particular?
So the Shadow Ruse is actually the very first song that Christo and I started writing back in May last year, and it was one of the main songs we used to get Isabella and the other guys to join us. But at that stage, it was only a short 1.5 or 2 minute clip of an idea, really. But the process of actually choosing that as the first single was a rather democratic one, I'd say. But we do vote on things and say, yes, I'm in favor of that, or no, I'm in favor of something else.
Yeah.
With the Shadow Ruse, it seemed like a really good choice because it's got a strong start, and then, it captures all the elements in one song of what we think the sound of Bring to Bear should be.
Expand more on, what the track actually is about, because it touches on the relationship between light and dark. If you guys could sort of just elaborate on that sort of concept.
Okay, so for me, the song, I wrote the lyrics for it. So for me, it is about that balance between light and dark, or what we perceive to be good and bad. Because you can look at a situation from one angle and say that was good, but then from the opposite angle, it might have looked bad. And another situation might be totally the opposite. So it's more a case of trying to bring your mind into a balance of looking at things not for what you think they are, but for what they actually are. And they're just events. The rest of it is all how you react to the event. So for me, the song is about finding that balance before anything else actually happens in the band. So from a place of balance is where Bring to Bear will start. At least that's my hope for it.
For me, when I've heard the lyrics for the first time, when I read it, it's like a little bit of what is happening within every human being. because we both have like a light and darker side, and I think we need to embrace both and work with it to kind of know how are we as a whole person, because sometimes from the darkest places you can see the light as it in the song, and you can actually create very amazing things when you're going to work through the dark stuff.
And it was also released, alongside a very powerful lyric video that is currently out on YouTube. I want you guys to sort of tell me more about that. What was the inspiration behind it and who actually designed it?
So yeah, we are very happy with that lyric video. It was done by Mir Hisham's Art of Heavy Metal. We actually found him on Fiverr, but one day I was browsing the catalog of Fiverr to see if there was someone who could do the video for us, and his portfolio is the one that stood out to me the most. So I contacted him and we made a deal. And in terms of the script of the music video, I sent him the artwork for the cover of the single, The Shadow Ruse. And I said, it will be great in the video if we have elements of the bear and elements of the lady in the artwork. And the forest is the setting that we've chosen as a band. And I sent him as well our color palette that we've been working with. And I said, even though our color palette on the artwork is quite light, we are a metal band, so it's fine if it can go a little bit darker to catch that atmosphere slightly. And other than that, I said, the rest is up to you. And I'm very, very pleased with what he's done. He's done a great job on that.
I, for one, am very excited to actually hear the entire EP after listening to The Shadow Ruse, man. It just sort of opened up this hunger, to just hear the rest of your material. So I'm super stoked, on that. So I really just want to find out from you guys now as individuals, in terms of what you guys actually enjoy about working with one another. So Isabella, what do you enjoy about, working with Ian and the rest of the guys? And Ian, what do you enjoy about working with Isabella, and the rest of the guys as well?
I enjoy everything. To be honest, we are all so different. And this is amazing because we have an amazing set of people, because everyone in here has a particular skill, which gives us like a lot of benefit to the band. Because apart of like writing music, we've got Ian doing all of our artwork. We've got Nick, who is actually amazing with camera and photography. And kind of all of those side hobbies, they are amazing when you're going to put them together, because it's just like, I don't even know how to explain that. I really love this.
Yeah, I think we've actually, like Isabella said, got a great range of skills and side interests besides the music. And they complement each other really well. So Isabella mentioned my hobby of art and Nick's of photography and film. But she didn't mention her own of social media, which I'm really glad about.
Not yet. I'm still learning.
You know a lot more than me. I'm not very good on social media. So I'm really glad that Isabella can actually manage that for us. So yeah, we've got these great skills that each person can actually take ownership of. And there's a lot of things that go into running a band besides just playing the instrument. That go into being part of a band besides just playing the instrument. So working together works really well when people do actually have their own aspect of the band that they can kind of manage and run with.
Ian is the most organized person I've ever met. He's got like everything, every single thing written down, ready for everything, which is amazing. And I am a person who is not like really patient sometimes, and I would like to do things now fast, quick, and I'm not sometimes thinking everything through. And the guys on the other side, they're more of a logical side, so we are able to balance it out very nicely. So we've got action and we've got organization.
Just thinking about Devo and how organized he is, and just hearing Isabella say, Ian is super organized. This must be the most organized band in the history of bands even existing. So shout out to you guys and the harmony that you guys sort of maintain within the band. It's quite clear that you guys get along, and that's one of the key aspects, that make you guys as good as you are. So just looking at the future right now, what does that sort of hold for Bring to Bear? We know that you guys have an EP coming out later on in the year. We're super stoked about that. What do you guys have in store sort of beyond that?
So the first thing first is to find a bass guitarist. Christo is actually an excellent bass guitarist and did the recordings in the studio for us, but we're going to need someone else for live as well, and someone who can then take over all the bass guitar recordings in future. And as soon as we find someone to fill that, we would love to get gigging. In terms of other music that we've got coming, we actually recorded 5 songs in the studio, and they're being mixed and mastered in a step-by-step process. So at the moment, we're focusing on the 3 songs that are being released on the EP in August or September. And once that is released, we'll have 2 more songs to release a little later in the year that won't have been heard yet and outside of a live setting. So that's still to come this year. And in the meantime, we're also focusing now a little bit more on writing some newer stuff, the very first steps of some new songs that
very good. Very good songs.
Final question on my side. Do you guys have any plans to sort of come down to South Africa, in the near future?
Well, at this stage, we'd love to play anywhere, really. So if we can make it work out, we would love to play there, yeah. I think in terms of the live, the step-by-step process of playing live, we'll probably start with the local UK scene first, and then stretch it to our neighbours in Europe. But hopefully not too long before we can get out to South Africa. Certainly, if we've got lots of people there who'd love to see us, then we'll do what we can to make it happen.
Hey, that is magnificent. Please, guys, do share your guys' handles. We have come to that part of the show. And also just let us know where the Shadow Ruse is available, where we can sort of get access to that. Obviously, out on YouTube, you got the lyric video. Where else can we get it beyond that?
The Shadow Ruse will be available on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon, YouTube, Deezer, Pandora,
Instagram,
Facebook as well, yeah. Pretty much all the major streaming outlets you can think of. And you'll also be able to buy it through our Bandcamp page, which will be going live soon. If you'd like to buy that and contribute to us, will be much appreciated. But yeah, at this stage, we just want people to really enjoy our music and be inspired by it. So if it inspires you, we would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook at Bring to Bear. You can find our channel on YouTube to subscribe to it. We also have Instagram, which is at Bring to Bear Band. And we have a Twitter handle as well, which is bear_bring.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate it with all my heart and soul, and I hope that everyone who's been tuning in as well has really enjoyed it. Are there any parting words that you guys have before we play out with the Shadow Ruse?
Well, thanks to you, Naz, for this opportunity. It's been great chatting to you. Thanks to Devo as well for connecting us with you, and thanks to everyone who's listening.
Yes, we are very grateful. Thank you, guys.
Hey, if you've been with us from the get-go, I'd like to just thank you for tuning into this episode. Do check out all our stuff on social media. On Facebook, we are at Sludge Underground. On Instagram, at Sludge Underground. On Twitter, at Sludge031. And if you want to tune into all the episodes, we're obviously on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. We are Sludge Underground Podcast. But as always, click that link in our bio on all those social media platforms to tune into basically all things Sludge Underground. We're going to be closing out with the Shadow Ruse. Thank you guys once again for joining me and the band. Until next time, it is bye for now.